Hi, folks. I'm Anitra. This is Grommet, and today we are going to be sharing some medical gear that we keep on hand specifically for our dogs in case we get into a emergency situation during van life while we're out and about adventuring in the wilderness. And we wanted to share that with you because I know anyone who has a dog that they're traveling with, that they live with, they love. And there's nothing worse than watching them suffer and not knowing what to do. So I just want to share some gear that I recommend having on hand. And I worked as a veterinary technician for 11 or so years. And some of the gear I'm going to show you today is not something you can get, through Amazon or at Walmart. But I do recommend that you go to your veterinarian and you talk to them and that you tell them that you're going out on the road and you're going to be far from help and ask if you can specifically get certain things for common problems that dogs seem to run into, because they can really help save your dog's life in an emergency situation. So, what do you think, Grom? You want to get down for a little bit? Want to get down, my bud? So I can show people stuff? Maybe not. What are the most common things that happen to dogs? Well, they tend to injure their legs and their feet. They tend to ingest things they shouldn't and wind up vomiting and having diarrhea. They can ingest toxins. And these are some of the things that can really turn bad quickly when you're out in the wilderness that you want to address and that we're going to cover today.
I want to share just a couple of the incidences I've had with some of my dogs. I had a black lab mix named Rukin who got into it with a coyote and subsequently lost her tail to a bite. She also got into a fight with a bear, not a grizzly bear, but a black bear, and needed several stitches. I had a wonderful, sweet German Shepherd mix that loved to get into porcupine quills. So, for that, I highly recommend that you always have a pair of needle nose pliers in your van, car, or house to get these out because porcupine quills can be quite serious. And then I also had a Catahoula mix named Lotus, my soulmate brother, who often got cactus thorns in his legs while we were traveling. And I just want you to know that all of these incidences turned out just fine because I felt comfortable knowing what to do.
So, everything that you do decide to put in your kit, really learn how to use, work with your veterinarian, watch videos, download apps and reference guides on your phone so you have something to look to when you're in an emergency situation. So, John and I basically carry two bins. You can see the size of this one. This is the bigger bin. The other bin has more of the supplies that we go to more readily that we want to have right at arm's reach within the van. That one's a little smaller. But I threw all the dog stuff in here to make it easier. Next week, I'll be sharing what John and I have more on the human end of things, but a lot of the things that we carry for humans, we also use on dogs. So I have some of that in here. So some of it will be a repeat week to week, but I think that'll be fine. One of the things that's common when you're out in the wilderness and even at home, your dog will crack a nail. I recommend everyone has a pair of nail clippers for their dogs and you know how to use it. Dogs do have what's called a quick in their nail that if you cut it will bleed, but having a cracked nail can make your dog somewhat lame and make it difficult to travel and can get infected. So it's better to cut it off and make it bleed. And you can also carry some styptic powder, which or quick stop. It basically just clots the blood so you can stop the bleed. And along with that, one of my favorite things to have on hand, and this is for humans and dogs, is what's called vet wrap, which is this stretchy tape, which is amazing for wrapping your dog's foot after they've either got a cut on it or broken a nail. And It doesn't stick to their hair. It comes off easy. It sticks to itself so that you don't have to carry anything else besides this. Carrying vet wrap with you is a must, I think, in your backpack. One roll, super lightweight. It's good for so many things, but it'll definitely come in use whenever your dog cuts their paw, breaks a nail, cuts themselves anywhere, basically. And then on top of that, I like to carry some cloth tape. And it's good to just have tape on you anyway. You can use tape for so many things. But once you put a wrap on a paw, if you put this over that, it'll again prevent the dog's hair from getting ripped out when you pull it off. But it'll also protect this bandage more as they walk over rocks and have the potential to shred this. So good thing to have on hand. As a backup, if something really terrible happens to their paws, having a little booty on hand is not a bad idea as well. And these are simple. They have Velcro straps. Ooh. They open nice and wide, and you can slip your dog's paw in, and then this tightens up to hold it on. Other things for cuts and wounds are some type of pad to stop bleeding so you can pressure. And with dogs, again, I like to use something non-stick, and these Telfa pads are great. And I do believe you can order these on Amazon's, and they're basically a non-stick pad that yeah, you can use the vet wrap right around these and they work great. Okay, next up, again, for wounds, wraps, I like to have some type of cotton gauze. It's also good for a pressure bandage if you're having trouble controlling a bleed. Just to show you how much I love vet wrap. I carry a lot of this with us. I usually order a case off of Amazon and we always go through it. It's one of our most used gear, not only on the animals, but on ourselves. Next, I like to carry a thermometer for my dog just to check temperature if something seems wrong. And I always use the old school glass mercury thermometers because it's going in a dog's butt, and these are much easier to clean with some alcohol wipes than your digital thermometers that have some cracks and crevices and can get some poo stuck in them. Nobody wants that. Next is a tick remover. Now, you might not be traveling somewhere where there's a lot of ticks. You may not need this, but if you are going somewhere where there are ticks, normally I can pick a tick off with my fingers, but for really embedded ones, this tool is great. It has these little slits that you just slide the tick right down in there, and then you twist this tool until the tick pops right off. And this way you don't leave a part of the tick in it, inside your pet's skin where they can get infected and red and irritated, and just one less hassle to have to deal with. Everybody should carry some heart guard or some type of heartworm preventative for your dog. Heartworm's no joke, and this HeartGuard brand takes care of a number of parasites, which are common for dogs to get into as they sniff other animals' poop and eat it sometimes and ingest some parasites, and then you have to deal with that out in the wilderness, and that's never any fun. So on those lines, because if your dog gets into something common, dog problems are digestive upset. So either vomiting, diarrhea. So I recommend that you talk to your vet again. So this is my little kit here where I have different medications that I carry from our dog. And one is always going to be something to stop diarrhea and vomiting, because dehydration can be a real problem for animals. And not an easy thing to deal with while you're out in the wilderness. So those are definitely, if you can get your vet to prescribe you anti-diarrheal and an anti-vomiting, and perhaps some type of antibiotic specifically for the digestive system. And for us, we also like to carry doxycycline, and that's because our animals tend to get tick-borne diseases a lot, and this is the one that will take care of it. Additionally, in the medicine bag, I have ointment like bacitracin and a derma cleanse specifically to help heal wounds on my pets.
One of the drugs I forgot to include, but I think is very wise to have on hand, is something for pain and inflammation, and those drugs include steroids and NSAIDs such as Rimadyl.
Speaking of diarrhea and vomiting, that can cause dehydration, and there's a lot of other things that animals can get into, and people as well, where supportive therapy is really helpful to save a life. And one of those is hydration, fluid therapy. I don't know whether your vet will be willing to give this to you, but I believe a lot will if, they can teach you how to use this. But this is lactated ringers. It comes with the attachment, and then you would also get some needles that you would attach to the bag of fluids, and then you would inject this subcutaneously underneath the pet's skin, and they could show you how to do that. So I think it's worth asking, because in emergency situation, supportive fluid therapy is one of the things that can really save a life.
My camera cut out for the next two segments, so I'm going to do my best to piece these together. The first thing I wanted to share is that they do have pet first aid guides, and the second segment is specific to dog tourniquets, which you want to use instead of a human tourniquet.
You gotta show everybody. Okay. Yeah. Ooh. Okay. So let's say Grommet had a bad cut in his leg that was bleeding horribly. I would slide this up over his leg as high as possible, and then I would tighten this, pull this as tight as possible till the bleeding stops. Always with a tourniquet, as tight as possible. Just keep pulling until there's no blood. Then you would wrap this around the upper extremity, tight, 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 until you could put this into the clip. One of the things that concerns me the most when I'm out in the wilderness is my dog ingesting some type of toxin. And this happened to me before. I had a dog when we lived in Oregon ingest mushrooms and was dead in a few hours. And if you've ever been through an experience like that, you realize you really got to be prepared. And unfortunately, I wasn't there till the tail end. I was with my dog, and then I was gone for a couple hours at work. And when I came back, it was already too late. But had I been there, the first thing I would have done was give my dog hydrogen peroxide. Always suggest carrying a lot of hydrogen peroxide with you. And you can get it in small bottles, you can get it in these bags that are easier to carry in your backpack. I also have some spray bottles, so I always have a bit of hydrogen peroxide on, because for a larger dog, you're going to need a bit of hydrogen peroxide. And what you do with this, and all of the things I'm going to talk about now, are your dog needs to be awake and able to swallow. You do not want to get these types of things into your dog's lungs, which is called aspiration. So I always have syringes on me, and different size syringes, so that I can administer my dog hydrogen peroxide, which causes the dog to vomit. And I always also carry with me an ASPCA poison control. So I want the poison control number on hand so that I can call somebody if I need to. And then if you see here, I have Grommet's weight, and I have his weight in kilograms.
Drug dosages for dogs typically are in milligrams per kilogram, so it's important to know your dog's weight in kilograms so that you can get the correct drug dosage.
And I keep this wrapped around the next thing I'm going to talk about, which is activated charcoal, so I can quickly pull it off and have it on hand. But it'll tell you how much peroxide to give. So you want to administer 1 milliliter per pound up to a maximum of 45 milliliters. So all you want to do is you're going to get your dog vomiting, get them to get that toxin out of their body. Super important. And then the next thing is activated charcoal. Now, this is the jar I've had for a long time. I also recently purchased this box of activated charcoal. And there are dangers with giving these things, and I can talk about those. If you're interested, let me know in the comments. I can put some more information. But this can also really save a life. I'm always really concerned about toxic algae, and what I want to do is get it out of my dog, clean my dog off, make sure that they do not have any left on their hair, and then I want to administer activated charcoal. So just some things that I think are super important to have on hand for your dog. The other thing that I want to get is some type of dog carry harness, because if you've ever tried to carry a 75-pound dog out of the wilderness, you realize that your biceps give out pretty quickly. But being able to carry them on your back is, yeah, so much easier. Distribute the weight over your back and your hips and get them out of this situation. And like I said, hopefully you always have some cell phone reception where you can call for help and ask questions, or a GPS locator to get your dog out of the situation, yourself out of the situation, and help save a life. So these are some of the things I carry. I'll go over a few more of them in next week's video where we talk about our kit. But I just wanted to share some of these things and help you get prepared for your life out in the wilderness, on the road, far away from help. It's wonderful to be out there in the wilderness, but it's also nice to be able to make sure that your pet friends are safe and happy, and that you have some skills to help get them out of whatever they get into, because they sure like to get into everything. So thank you all for watching. I'll see you next week where we go over a little bit more of this. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. So let's get started. Do you want to get going and you'll help out when we need you? Yeah? Are you going to stay? Okay, he might stay. I didn't think he was just going to get this comfortable. I was just using him as an example of a dog. Oh, maybe he's going to go. You going to go so I can show people the gear that I carry for you? To your